Readers Entertainment Radio presents Booklights with your host, author Lisa Kessler. Booklights, where we're shining a light on good books.
Good morning, everyone. It's Monday again, a brand new week, and we do have a good book to shine a light on today. I'm so excited. Everyone who is a usual listener knows that I get very excited when we have debut authors on because I can remember my debut, and it's the coolest thing ever to see your own words wrapped in a book for the first time, and I just love that. It's crazy. I put the chance for a debut author. Today, you're going to get to meet Yasmin Angoe, who has a brand new book out, a thriller called Her Name is Night. And if you have not read it yet, you're in for quite the thrill ride. But I'm going to bio here so you can get to know her. Hailing from Northern Virginia, Yasmin Angoe is a first-generation Ghanaian, I think I'm saying that right, American, who grew up in two cultural worlds. She taught English in middle and high schools for years and served as an instructional coach for virtual teachers and works as a freelance developmental and copy editor, so she's very busy, many hats. Yasmin received the 2020 Eleanor Taylor Bland Award for Emerging Writers of Color from Sisters in Crime, of which she's a proud member. She lives in South Carolina with her beautiful blended family, and when she's not writing, Yasmin's editing for clients, trying new recipes, or absorbed in an audiobook. I did put a link to her website right there on the Blog Talk site. If you're listening live or if you're listening later, you can click that anytime and find out what she's up to next and where you can find her on a podcast or an interview. And I think she also has a newsletter you can sign up for too. So I don't want to delay anymore. Yasmin, are you there?
I am. Hello.
Hi. Thanks so much for coming to visit with us today. Tell everybody all about Her Name is Night and why they go grab it this week.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. Her Name is Night is about Nina Knight, who is a elite Ghanaian assassin who, when she is on a mission for the tribe, which is a clandestine organization of very powerful Africans from various African countries, and she worked for them. And while on a mission, she sees someone that she thought was long dead. This is a person who had ravaged her Ghanaian village where she lived as a child and killed all of her family and the villagers there, leaving her to be one of the sole survivors. And so she thought that, justice was served and those people were gone, but she finds out that they are not gone, and that changes her mission from that of the tribe to one of her own. She's got to exact her revenge, and she goes on this journey of revenge and also of redemption, and trying to keep these people from exacting their dastardly deeds again. I tried to sound suspenseful. Did it work?
Yes, it totally worked. I'm in. So do you see this being a series, or was it just a standalone?
Yeah, no, it is a series. I just finished up book 2 in August and just received, actually about an hour ago, my notes from my developmental editor. So I'm going to dive back in to do some revisions and work on that, and then it should come out sometime next year unless they change the date. So there's another one coming out.
Exciting. Yay. And same heroine. Is she going to take us through another adventure?
Yes, she certainly is. The adventure isn't finished even. So there's some things that I left open in the first one that she kind of needs to take care of in the second. So we're going to see if that all works out for her.
Oh, I love it. And I wanted to ask you because when I was reading the blurb, it's a big sweeping thriller on all different continents and all that kind of thing. And I wondered what inspired you to write that. How did the idea come together for you?
Right. Well, the the character kind of came first. So it kind of came in bits and pieces. I just knew I wanted to write about a woman, because I always write about women and, the struggles that they may go through, how they get through their struggles and everything. And so I knew that she was going to be someone who was like on the opposite side of the law. But I wanted to make sure that I had a way for the reader to kind of root for her in a way. Like, there's a reason why she is on the opposite side of the law, and they're going to want to go on this journey with her to, taking care of the business that she needs to take care of. But I think the big inspiration for writing this particular character in this genre is at the time that I had first thought of her, which was back in 2009, is when the idea of her first came to me. I really didn't see a whole lot of women in the genre that I love, because I love to read anything action, thriller, horror, all of that stuff, spy thrillers, espionage, whatever. I devour those, but I wasn't seeing very many like women in that pivotal role, if that makes any sense. They were typically like the damsel in distress, or maybe the right hand to the male, lead, or something like that. And I was like, I want to see myself doing these things, like, the Jack Ryan, the Ethan Hunt, because I love Mission Impossible. Like, I want to see a woman in that place, and I want the women to kind of look like me, especially, I didn't see, very many Black women, or one step further, immigrant women in those roles. So I said, I want to, do that. I want to see a Black woman, and I want to also highlight my culture, because I'm so proud to be a Ghanaian American, and talk about like this culture that my parents lived in and grew up in, and taught me about, things like that, shared stories with me about. So I wanted to incorporate all these different aspects of the things that I wanted to see in the characters that I read, and the characters that I watch on TV and in the movies.
I love that. When I write a book to go, I always call them book research, just to go check things out. Were you able to? Have you been to all the destinations in the book?
So I haven't been to London, which that's one of the destinations, but I have been to Ghana. I mean, I lived there for a couple of years with my grandmother, and then I went back, some years later, as a child with my dad to visit. And then my mom, she travels there quite often to see family, because we still have, all of our family there. And then I've been to Miami, is another location, so I've been there as well. So, yeah, but I mean, I do, go into the places. If I'm not able to, then I'm doing a lot of research with YouTube and, online TV. I also have, friends who live in those locations, so I might ask them about certain things and like, what do they think about this? And so I'm always asking people who are in the, that area of expertise what their opinion is before I put it in there.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And so when you were pulling in of, your parents' culture and your family culture, did you share that with them? Have read your book? Are they excited too?
Okay. So my mom is excited, but she won't read my book because she is she's very sensitive, I should say. So she does not watch or read books that have like killing in it or that are really action-packed. She likes, romance and those types of things. So I already knew. I didn't even ask her. I just asked. And so when I had to ask her, because my book has, some of our language in it, one of the dialects that we speak in Ghana, and I had to ask her some things like, what is the word for like killing and stuff like that. And so she was, really, she was like, what are you writing? And like, why am I don't feel comfortable answering these questions. And I thought she was going to pray over me or something like that. She was very, I had to talk her through, a few things. Yeah. But now that she sees, it's come to fruition, and she sees this hard, cover book and things like that, she's like, okay, I'm excited now. But so we don't talk about what's in it. We just talk about like the outside part. And my father, unfortunately, he passed away in 2010, so he's not able to see this. And so that's why like the book is dedicated to him. And he inspired a lot of the book. The father figures is a theme of father-daughter relationships and strong father figures in the story. And so that is, essentially my relationship that I had with my dad, and then also the subsequent men who stepped into his role as father figures to me once he passed away. So that's something that I use to really highlight, what a great man, I thought he was, and what a great father he was to me. Yep.
Oh, I love that. And I lost my mom a couple of years ago, and it was so hard knowing, because she was always one of my first readers, knowing that, this is the first book that my mom won't read. And somebody pointed out to me, now she's probably reading as you're writing. And I thought, oh, that makes me feel a lot better. That could be. She could be right over my shoulder.
Ooh,
so
like
anyway, I'm sure your dad is so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I like that. I'm gonna take that thought too and say that he was with me that whole time. Yeah, I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, he was coaching you along the way. Yeah. So I wanted to ask, you said you like thrillers and horror. Are there any other genres that you have little ideas jotted down, or are thrillers right where your heart is?
Honestly, my heart is just wherever there's a good story. So I will read women's fiction. I'll even read, romance if it, grabs my attention. And I have a lot of friends who are romance writers, so I'll read that. It just depends on my mood sometimes. At the time, I would love to try my hand at like a horror, and I started off that I wrote, the first that I published. But my first book that I wrote was women's fiction. And I would, love to get that, put, placed somewhere, because I really, really love that story. And I think it's a story that, a lot of friends, it's a friend story. It does have a little element of dark. So I think anything that I write will probably have a little element of dark in it, because I'm just that kind of person who I like stories that make me think about like certain issues or things, whether it's, relationships between friends, girlfriends, or, romantic relationships or anything like that. So I use my books or my writing to really help me kind of think through things that I don't understand about life and the world and people. And so that's what readers will find in this book. There are a lot of things that I didn't understand about, the way the world is, and, how does a person move from grief? How does a person rebuild after they've suffered, some sort of trauma or grief, and how do they not let that be the thing that, defines them? You know what I mean? They make their own
how to move past
themselves and things. Exactly. And so that's what this book is. So this book is not only a thriller, it's got a little bit of everything in it, to be honest. But like, that's just what I just write, whatever is on my heart. And then everybody else tells me where it should be placed. And I'm like, okay, I'll go with that. But definitely we had to have some action and stuff, because I love to be just energized and to have just good action to go with my good story.
Right. I love that. I got my start in horror, and I wrote horror short fiction. And then when I wrote my first book, I had written it as a horror novel, but there was, of course, a strong romantic subplot. And that was when paranormal romance was first coming up. And I was like, well, I think that I could amp up the romance and maybe tamp down the killing slightly. And I ended up going into, the paranormal romance angle, because then I can still have my monsters, my death, my action, my high stakes, but the good guys win, and I could live with that. So it's interesting as we, try to figure out which writer we're going to grow up to be, where we all go.
Right.
And I wanted to ask, who inspires you when you read? Like, which authors do you, and then you go, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get to it. I have to go write.
Oh gosh, there's so many. But I guess the ones that really started me off, I love, probably a lot of people say this, I do love Stephen King. I love his writing. I think that he really is prolific in his imagination, and in the places in which he goes, and he really pushes, and he can write a really good, scary story. And I love a story that like really scares me or really just like resonates with me in one way or the other. And so like that's for horror. And then I've read James Patterson. I really like his Alex Cross series. And I like Michael Crichton, and I like Lee Child, Lee and Andrew Child, so the Child brothers. I like those. And I like, for women, I really love Toni Morrison is someone that I have read all through my years. And some recent ones, let me think here, would be Kelly Garrett is one she wrote, like it's the Detective by Day series, and I really love, she just has really voicey characters, and so she's another African-American female author who writes like cozy mysteries and things like that, and so she wrote Hollywood Homicide, and I really love her writing. And recently out is Wanda Morris with All Her Little Secrets, and so that's another thriller, and it's in the vein of like she's the lawyer, so the main character is like a lawyer. So there's just so many. It's just whoever, you know what, I'm very flaky. It's whoever I'm reading at the time, and the book is so good.
Right.
I just totally love that person.
Yes.
And then the
yes.
next time I read something else, I just totally love that person.
Yes. Yes, I love when I pick up a book, and it's funny that I say pick up a book because I read everything on my Kindle now or my phone, but it's still like I'm picking up a book. But I love when I fall into a book and it reminds me how magic a book can be, because when you get a really good book and it transports you, it really is like magic. You know, I go, oh my gosh, an hour is gone. Wow. Yes.
Oh, and I forgot another author, Rachel Housel Hall, and she wrote These Toxic Things, and I read that recently because I had like an event with her, and it was such a good book, and it, like just what you said, transported me into like her world, and what that character was going through. And so you're right, and that's something that I've always like grown up. You know, I was a single child, I guess. Is that what they said? Only child, sorry. An only child growing up with
me too.
An only child growing up with my mom. Okay, yes. And so my brother and sisters didn't come along until I was 12. But by that time, you know, I had just figured out what I was going to do with life. But like up until that point, all I had were books. And all I had was my writing. Those were my babysitters and my siblings. And so I had to be transported to a different world, especially with my mom working, so that I could, you know, like enjoy myself and not be all sad because my mom was working. So I definitely feel you when you say, you know, something transports you to this whole different world, and it's just the best feeling ever. I love it.
Right. Yeah. I was the only child too, and we lived out in the sticks. So it wasn't even like there were friends on my street to go play with. So it was, you know, you read a book and your imagination goes crazy, and it's just, it keeps you from being bored, and it keeps you company. And it's probably why we both became writers, because we had to invent these people, you know, in our heads.
Exactly.
So I always ask everyone what their writing journey looked like for them, because I know readers out there sometimes think that we write a book and then we follow this path and we get it we get an agent, we get it published, and the end of the story. But it usually isn't like that. It's usually different for everyone. So what did your writing journey look like? Because it sounds like you got into teaching. You know, did you always think you would be a novelist, or did it creep up on you one day?
Well, no, it's something I had to put down because I didn't think it was feasible for me at that time. When I left high school, and this was, back before, Twitter and all this other stuff. I really didn't know how, I didn't know a pathway to becoming an author. I know I wanted to write. I loved it, right? But I didn't know that there was a whole publishing industry. So I went to school and then got married and had a family and, put my writing down for a while to find something that, made a little bit more sense to my mom and everybody else, which was, going into education and being a teacher. And I loved it. But in being a teacher, I was an English teacher. So writing and reading was still very much a part of my life, even as a teacher. I couldn't imagine teaching anything else but that. And so that's where I channeled all of my, I guess, authorship stuff is through my students and doing all of that. And when I finally, tried, and I tried to my women's fiction, and this would be way back, when you had to send the manuscript like snail mail, and you were writing letters, and printing them out and sending them with the self-addressed stamped envelope back, so that they could tell you that they hated you or whatever the case is. But so I've been through a whole lot of rejection. So it was not, so anyone who's listening, it was not easy for Yasmin Angoe, all right? So I spent, years, decades trying to get to this author thing, and I put it down for a while so I can, raise my kids. And then finally, when I, had a change in life and lost my dad and all this other stuff, I, decided, what, I got to do the thing that makes me happy. I'm missing something, and that something that I was missing was writing. And I picked it back up and going for my dream, because, yes, my dream was always to be a published author. I definitely couldn't do, for me, self-published, because I just didn't have the money or the marketing, thought to go do that. So yeah, I just, tried that, and then I wrote this book, and it took me about a year to write this book. I started it in 2018 and then finished it in 2019, decided I was going to start querying it in 2020. So in January of 2020, I started, sending out query letters and everything like that. And I was getting rejection, even though prior to that, I told myself, this is the story. I just know everyone's going to love it. It's going to be great. And just, it's going to be so easy. And it wasn't easy. I got, almost, over 100 rejections, from, or not even any responses back. People were just telling me, no. And then eventually, I had a wonderful agent, Melissa Edwards, who finally gave me a yes. I think it was by June June is when she finally, called me and things like that. So it took a while. And that, it took me, I'm going to say, it didn't, just because I queried this, or shopped this, in 2020, but my whole path, right, is like decades. And it took a long time to finally get that yes. But when I got that yes, for me, then it went pretty quickly. So it changes for people, but let me tell you, it's not easy. So just be prepared. But also, I'm going to say, don't give up, because right before she called me, I was going to give up. After all those rejections, I was like, you know what, maybe everybody knows something that I don't know, and maybe I really suck, and so I'm going to quit. And so I was going to quit. I was literally going to quit. And then she called and said, hey, do you want to call? And I said, sure. And then I decided maybe I won't quit. And that's my story.
Yay. Oh, yeah, the rejections are very, very hard, and it's so good that you didn't quit, because every no gets you one step closer to that yes, gets them out of the way so you can get to the yes. But that actually happened really fast in the world of publishing, that your book's already out in 2021. Amazon, because Thomas & Mercer is an Amazon imprint, right? They were fast. Wow.
They were super fast.
I love that.
I remember when my agent asked the editor, Mega, she said, hey, when are we looking to publish this? And she was like, November of 2021. And this was this was probably in August of last year that she said this. And Melissa was just like, that's really fast. And I was just like, okay, because I didn't know any better. I just thought, hey, okay, that sounds like a long time to me. But you are absolutely right. It is a very short time, and it went super fast. So
Yeah, and I saw that they already have it out in audiobook too. Did you get to listen to the audiobook? Is it exciting to hear your story, brought to life by these narrators who are amazing?
Right. So I have the audiobook. It stares at me every day, but I haven't listened to it yet because I was like, I'm not ready yet to listen to it. So so one day I'm going to finally get up the nerve. I'm such a chicken. I'm going to get up the nerve and I'm going to listen to it because even reading the story back, when I'm reading the book back, if I have to, like for readings or whatever, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I wrote this. And so it's very, I don't know, it kind of scares me a little bit. And so if I have someone reading it back to me, it might really freak me out. So I'm like just pacing myself. It's right there. I look at it and I'm like, yeah, is today going to be the day? And then I'm like, no, today's not going to be the day. And so, so one day I'm going to read it because I know that it's going to be fantastic. But today is not the day.
Yes. Well, I remember when my first audiobooks came out, I was not an audiobook listener. So as far as I knew, it was someone reading you the book. And so when my first series, Audible put it out, and I didn't have anything to do with it, they picked the narrators, everything. So I didn't know what to expect. And so when I started listening and they're like bringing these characters to life, and I promise you're going to love your book. It was so wild hearing them. It's almost like seeing a movie of your book. And the narrators, if someone listening hasn't listened to an audiobook yet, it's not someone reading your book. The narrators are like actors, and it really adds another dimension to the words that you put on the page. So it was quite an experience to go, oh my God, I wrote that. So I hope that you have that same experience when you listen to yours, because it really, they do such a fantastic job. And now I'm a big time audiobook listener. I love listening to audiobooks. I don't know if you're into those or not, but they're
oh no, that's how I yeah, that's the only thing I can do is read an audiobook because, like you said, I like that whole immersive experience. And if it's a good narrator and they can, like, make you feel like that, I'm just like, yes, I love it.
Right. Yeah. It's really something else. So anyone listening who hasn't tried an audiobook yet, go try it, because there really are, it's a whole different way to experience a book. And you can listen while you're folding laundry or doing dishes, or it can make a mundane task really fun.
Yes, exactly.
So we're rapidly running out of time, but I wanted to ask you, are you on all the social medias for readers to find you? Do you have any, having books come out during these plague times has been really weird because there haven't really been in-person events, but do you have some virtual events coming up that people can get in touch with you, or what do you have cooking?
Yeah. So let's see. I just had a couple of virtual events, and so I think they need to book me for a couple more. But you could find me at my website, which is yasminangoe.com, and I usually update that with all of my events. So just keep checking that out. And then I'm on Twitter at Yas, Y-A-S-A writer. And then I'm also on Instagram under author_Yas. So you can find me there, and I will let you know when I am next at a virtual event. I've got some IG stuff coming up with some other people. So, but hopefully I'll have another bookstore virtual event, and then y'all can come check me out.
Yay. And one good thing to come out of plague times, I think, are all these virtual events, because for a long time, if you didn't have the money or the time or, the childcare to go travel to a book convention or something, you were left out. And now everyone has learned how to use Zoom. We've all learned how to, do these virtual events. And I think it's so inclusive and wonderful that everyone can participate. So I hope that part of the plague stays.
Me too.
Well, thanks so much for being here today. It was so good with you. And go grab your copy of Her Name is Night. And you heard it here that there is going to be a book 2 that will be out next year. So jump into the adventure, and it's going to be great. Thanks so much for being on today, Yasmin.
Thank you for having me. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on Booklights. Be sure to connect with us at www.readersentertainment.com for articles, blogs, videos, and podcasts that matter to readers.